Hello everybody, welcome to the channel. My name is JGOD. In today's video we're going to be focusing on some more Call of Duty multiplayer gameplay tips. Personally, I think one of the best ways to improve at Call of Duty is to actually review gameplay, and the best way I can do that for you as a content creator is to break down subscriber gameplay. So that's exactly what we have for you today, some subscriber gameplay focusing on certain tips and tricks that we'll find throughout the video that will hopefully help you up your game. If you're interested in being featured in one of these videos, make sure you check out the description below, follow all the steps, and you'll pretty much be good to go. If at any point you do enjoy the video or find any of the tips helpful, please remember to hit that like button, and if you are interested in finding your way back to the channel, make sure you do hit that subscribe button with notifications on. And if you can't tell immediately, this is theater mode gameplay. That's why the accuracy and recoil look a little bit off. So the main things we'll be paying attention to are how they center their weapon, how they position themselves around the map, how they rotate based off spawns, and then also whether or not they are landing or missing their shots. So right here it looks like we have another acoustic sensor user, and early in the game's life cycle I highly recommended the acoustic sensor, but overall I think it ends up being one of those pieces of gears that kind of ends up being a crutch and doesn't allow you to actually improve, because you put too much trust in the piece of gear versus actually trusting your instincts, or learning a little bit more how to predict where enemies are going to be so you can position yourself a lot better. You're going to see as he goes ahead and makes this lap around, then he heads back to the opposite side of the map. He does get hit with the shotgun at first. It gives a directional indication where the guy is. The guy looked like he took off around the corner, and he's trusting that acoustic sensor. And even though it's theater mode and we can't see that kill cam, it definitely looks like that guy is running dead silence. The acoustic sensor didn't go off until he was within that 3 or 4 meter range, so that pretty much tells you the guy has dead silence. So even though initially you might struggle with switching to the stim shot or the ComSec device, what you will notice is that you're going to be able to much better understand the minimap and gain a lot more information from that minimap. And that really goes back to having that crutch. Right here he ends up getting shot. This guy probably had dead silence as well. He runs in right up on him. He's not even looking that way because the acoustic sensor is telling him to focus on this guy that's at his left hand side that will more than likely come through that doorway. But he ends up getting shot in the side before any of that stuff ever happens. Whereas if he didn't have that acoustic sensor, he wouldn't really know which way to look, so he'd be peeking the right, the middle, the left, the right, the middle, the left. And overall, when it comes to map positioning, that is not an ideal spot unless you know there's like 2 or 3 enemies flooding from that left-hand door and you're just trying to catch them a little off guard as they run through that doorway. That's really the only time you want to stand there. You don't really want to be there for an extended period of time. Based off this situation, it doesn't look like he's running scavenger or picking up crash bags, so you're going to be kind of in a tough spot. You're going to be running out of ammo. Takes out the first guy, reloads, doesn't necessarily have a full clip. Can't afford to be pre-firing like that when he doesn't have ammo. So a few things he could have done before even entering that room is to make sure he gets a secondary weapon on one of his kills along the way if he's not running scavenger. If you happen to be running scavenger, he's got to make sure he pick up the little ammo bags so he has enough ammo for those future gunfights. The one mistake that I see him kind of running into multiple times here is he keeps running towards the middle of the map. Typically you want to stay to the outside in some way, whether it's the right side of the map or the left side of the map. You pretty much just kind of rotate around those outsides. Only move through the middle if you know you have a bunch of teammates there covering certain areas. But other than that, you pretty much want to stay to the outskirts like he's doing now. Go ahead and peek mid real quick, wouldn't jump in, get a quick kill, nothing's going on, then I'd rotate around the spawn. And what I mean by that is assess where the enemies are. It looks like all the enemies are going to be in front of him in this direction on that spawn. So I kind of pushed through this doorway, and I would have pushed through, peek people as they're heading towards the middle room because that's where a hot area is. Comes around here, peeks that guy, takes him out pretty easily, and then he kind of rotates back around this direction. But this time around, he actually pushes through the direction I would go all the way through this little area, kind of pre-aiming, predicting where enemies are going to be coming through, because typically they were going to be running from left to right from the spawn through into that doorway. I would never push into this direction, and the main reason for that is because now you've essentially flipped the spawns, so you got to run all the way to the other side of the map. And if you didn't flip the spawns, that means you're going to get shot in the back. Luckily, he ends up running into some guy that is basically AFK, gets a little easy kill, and then has to rotate all the way to the other side of the map. And since he's in an all-out sprint mode, he comes around the corner. Enemy knows where he's at because he's fired his weapon unsuppressed. Obviously, the Maddox doesn't have a suppressor, and the guy is 100% ready for him to come around the corner, but he's sprinting to the other side of the map, assuming the spawns have already flipped. So a lot of time, that's why you don't want to go that deep into the spawn. The furthest you really want to go is about that 75-80% mark on the map. And usually if you push any further than that, the outcome is not going to be a positive one. So I'd highly recommend this player switch up that acoustic sensor and start focusing more on that map control and positioning. From what I can gauge from this player's accuracy and how they control their crosshairs, it looks like they center very well. Based off what I can gather from looking at this theater mode gameplay, it also looks like their sensitivity is fairly close to where it needs to be. Doesn't look like it's too fast, out of control, or too slow where they can't actually snap on the targets. Looks like they're fairly accurate when they actually line up that shot and aim down sight. So there's just a few things that I think they could work on, as well as focusing on not pushing through the spawns. I think they would limit their deaths significantly, and as a result of their positioning, they would probably get more kills. Hopefully enjoying the video so far. Let's go ahead and jump into the second player's gameplay. And even though this next subscriber has a little bit higher KD, what we'll go ahead and make sure we focus on is the HUD. And as we make that transition, you'll see that it actually stretches out towards the edges, and I highly recommend making this as small as possible in your settings. And the main reason you want to make this adjustment is because you want your eyes to work as little as possible, and the effect is definitely more noticeable depending on your screen size. So as you bring that mini map closer to the middle, and even if that's a minimal change, you'll definitely notice the difference. So as we get into the gameplay, you can see how this player is locking down this middle area of the map. Typically on firing range, you want to kind of hang out in that building. He does see that sensor dart, goes ahead and takes that out, and then comes through the building, clears it out, and is pretty confident that all the enemies should be in front of him towards the bathroom spawn. So you can see where his teammates are on the mini map, and that's going to direct you all the information of where the enemies are spawning. There's pretty much a handful of spawns depending on where your teammates are positioned. Based off this current scenario, all the enemies should be coming from directly in front of him. Gets absolutely lasered by a Titan. Not much he could have done in that scenario. Looks like he missed a few shots there, but overall he did the right thing by positioning in that building. So this is about the only way you could approach this gunfight other than just avoiding it completely and going around the outside of the map. Obviously he lucked out. He faces the guy doesn't even land a single bullet on him. He closed that distance and takes the guy out with the SOG 9mm. And a pretty solid habit this player is showing is they always pick up that secondary weapon regardless of what it is. The first life we saw it was the Maddox, and now we're seeing it with the Cordite. Even gets a couple kills with the Cordite, knows he has that extended ammo, so this is a good backup weapon, especially if you find it on the ground. Trying to laser people at a pretty good distance, and with this weapon you can do that because it takes a reasonable amount of shots before it overheats. And then he uses the perfect reactor core. He knows he's kind of out positioned, gets behind cover really quickly where he's not going to be absolutely lasered standing in the open, calls in that reactor core, shuts those people down. They either run away or get killed by it. So it looks like he's doing the smart move of locking down this part of the map. A lot of times you want to lock down the trailer or that middle section where he was in previously, and then kind of see where the enemies are. Looks like the spawns are starting to rotate. They killed the last guy that was in bathrooms. Now all the enemies should either be coming through this left side or the far right side by the trailer. And that's just information you can gather from where your teammates are. It looks like there's a bunch of teammates behind him, and then there's some spawning in, and it looks like the teammates are about to converge on this middle section. You can see a few of them behind him right now, and then they're on the left side. It looks like a lot's going on at once, so this is the ideal time to push out of that trailer when there's a lot of people on your side. And now that I'm looking at the mini map, this is where it looks like it could get a little sketchy because there are teammates still in front of him, and it looks like there's enemies right in the middle of the map. There's teammates to the right. So it looks like all the enemies should be pushing through the middle section here, and that's kind of where you're seeing a lot of them on that mini map. So overall, if I had to compare this person to the previous person, I would say that their gun skill is pretty equivalent. Doesn't look like they miss a ton of shots. The biggest difference is positioning on the map. It is 100% clear that this person knows exactly where the spawns are and is able to predict them in real time. You can see how fast and aggressive he's pushing to this area, trying to chase down those kills. Maybe a little too aggressive in this scenario because he could have easily lost that first gunfight. And overall, you can see that map awareness and knowledge leads to an overall more confident play style. And in my opinion, a player's confidence directly translates to how well they perform from match to match. So let me know down in the comment section below, do you think confidence is a significant factor on how well you do from match to match and within each gunfight? So there's not much in terms of improvement for this player. I think overall they have pretty good gun skill. Their positioning, map awareness is very on point. The only downside that I saw is they're a little bit too aggressive, so maybe they got to time their aggression effectively when there's a UAV in the air, and then the other part is to maybe adjust that HUD to the smallest possible. And the main reason there's not a lot of critique is because this player is almost a 3.0 KD player, but what you'll notice is there's always room for improvement. Also, if you've enjoyed the video so far or any of the tips included, please remember to hit that like button. If you stuck around to this point, definitely make sure you subscribe with notifications on so you can find your way back to the channel. And if you're looking to have your gameplay broken down, all you got to do is follow 3 easy steps down in the description, which include just follow me on Twitter, staying on the lookout for any time I post asking for some gameplay review, and then post a link to that video whenever it comes time. And just a heads up for anyone interested in the Division 2, I have started a second channel so I can post content over there. I will leave a link down in the description below, so if you want to show that additional support or like that game or want to find out a little bit more about the Division 2, definitely make sure you click on that link, subscribe, turn notifications on so you'll get additional alerts every time I post a video over there. I always appreciate the support on the channel. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.